My heart raced as I slipped away from the big house, the familiar creaks of the old floorboards beneath my feet, muffled by the thick carpet. The flickering light of the lanterns cast grotesque shadows on the walls as I made my way towards the slave quarters. I had never ventured there before, a daughter of the master, raised in the comfort of privilege, while those who toiled just beyond my window endured unthinkable horrors. Yet tonight, something inside me stirred, an urgency that was both terrifying and exhilarating. As I approached, the night was thick with the scents of earth and toil, mingled with the faint aroma of wood smoke. The air felt electric, charged with the whispers of stories and lives woven together in a fabric of pain and resilience. I paused at the threshold, my breath hitching in my throat. What was I attempting? The silence of the night was heavy, almost suffocating, yet it beckoned me forward. I entered the dimly lit quarters, and the first thing that struck me was the warmth of bodies nestled close together, seeking comfort against an unforgiving world. They were huddled in their makeshift beds, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of a single candle. My heart swelled with a profound sense of connection. They were not merely slaves, they were people, imbued with dignity and spirit, struggling to survive in a harsh reality. "Clara?" A voice broke through the stillness, a young woman's voice, thick with sleep yet laced with recognition. It was Mary, a girl I had seen flitting about the plantation, her laughter echoing in the fields, a song of defiance against the odds. "What are you doing here?" I wanted to see you," I stammered, the words tumbling out before I could catch them. "I wanted to understand, to know." "Understand what?" She studied me with a wary gaze, and for a moment I could feel the weight of her scrutiny cut through my bravado. "You're the master's daughter. You've never cared for the likes of us before." Her words stung, and I felt a flush of shame. She was right. I had lived in the protective bubble of opulence, shielded from the struggles that carved lines of worry into the faces around me. But here, in this place, I felt the veil lifting, revealing the stark truths hidden beneath my world of silk and satin. "I know," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper, "but I need to know the truth." Mary's eyes, dark and probing, softened as she stepped aside, allowing me to enter the room fully. "You think you want to know?" she asked, her tone a mix of skepticism and curiosity. "You want to hear about the lashes, the broken backs? You want to hear about the children sold away from their mothers?" Each word struck me like a whip, and I flinched at the rawness of her reality. I had seen the scars, the physical reminders of brutality hidden beneath layers of skin, but I had never felt the weight of those memories, the visceral anguish they carried. I shook my head slowly, my voice trembling. I want to understand. I want to help." A murmur of laughter rippled through the room, tinged with disbelief. "Help? What can a white girl do for us?" It was a man's voice, rough and skeptical from the shadows. I turned to find Henry, a tall figure with deep-set eyes that had seen too much. In that moment I felt both small and emboldened. "I don't know," I confessed, my chest tightening. "But I hear your stories every day. I see the pain in your eyes, and I have to do something. This can't be all there is." As the words fell from my lips, I felt a spark ignite within me, a flicker of rebellion against the chains that bound not just the bodies of those around me, but my own spirit as well. Clara, the master's daughter, couldn't remain indifferent any longer. I could not sit idly by while an entire world of suffering existed just outside my window. Mary stared at me for what felt like an eternity. "What do you think you can do?" Her voice was steady, yet I could sense the tremor of hope beneath her skepticism. "I don't know yet," I admitted, "but I want to learn. If I can understand your struggles, perhaps I can speak out, help others see. Help change what I can." They exchanged glances, wary yet intrigued by my naive assertion of agency. The weight of their skepticism, mixed with the hope I had ignited within myself, transformed the room into a crucible of possibility. My privilege was a double-edged sword. It granted me access yet shackled me with the moral burden of my family's legacy. "Then learn," Henry said, breaking the spell. "But know this, it won't be easy. You'll face whispers and glances. They will see you as a traitor. I am ready, I proclaimed, the words bursting forth with an urgency I had never known before. This was my awakening, an unmooring from the complacency of my upbringing, an embrace of the full weight of my identity as the master's daughter who chose to stand with the enslaved. Yet with each pulse of determination surged the realization of the risks that loomed ahead. My father, a man of power and ruthlessness, would not take kindly to insurrection creeping from his own bloodline, and I could already feel the tempest of repercussions gathering like storm clouds on the horizon. In the hush that followed, I saw their expressions shift, a flicker of something. Was it trust? Blooming amongst the doubt. I had stepped into their world tonight, but I was not merely a spectator. I was a participant. I had crossed a line, and there was no going back. As I left the quarters that night, the moonlight draped around me like a shroud. The air felt alive with determination, the tension thick enough to slice through. I had taken the first step into a new reality, one fraught with danger, yet illuminated by the flickering flame of hope. The world around me twisted and warped as I made my way back, a stark contrast to the certainty of my previous life. I was no longer just Clara, the master's daughter. I was an agent of change, awakening to the truths that had long been buried. What lay ahead was unknown, yet I felt the pull of rebellion surge within me, a whisper that promised liberation not just for those enslaved, but for myself as well. And so began my journey, one that would test the very fabric of who I was and how I existed in a world defined by oppression. Each step away from the big house took me deeper into a fight for justice, a fight that had just ignited within me. The shadows loomed large, but I welcomed them, ready to embrace the chaos that would follow. The air in the quarters felt heavy with unspoken fears and untold stories, a palpable tension that mirrored the storm brewing within me. I had come seeking understanding, but now as I stood surrounded by the faces of those I had previously viewed as mere shadows in my father's world, I felt a deep-seated terror coiling in my stomach, a premonition of the horrors I had yet to witness. "Clara," Mary said, her voice low, "you don't know what you're asking for. You think you can just walk in here and understand? You think you can just help?" Her skepticism was a shroud, enveloping the fragile hope I had dared to nurture. I felt my resolve waver, but the memory of my friend Samuel, with his laughter echoing in the fields, propelled me forward. "I need to see," I insisted, urgency filling my voice. "I need to know what happens when you're caught, what the cost of resistance truly is." Just then, the door swung open with a sudden creak, and the air changed. It felt like the world had shifted on its axis. In stepped Henry, his tall frame casting an imposing shadow that seemed to swallow the room. The laughter and murmurs fell silent, all eyes turning toward him, and in that moment, I realized the gravity of my intrusion. "Who let the master's girl in here?" he demanded, his voice laced with a protective anger that sent a shiver down my spine. "I did," Mary interjected swiftly, stepping in front of me. "She wants to know." Henry's gaze softened, but his eyes remained wary. "Clara, this isn't a game. You're risking not just your comfort, but your life. The master would have no mercy for you or for us if he discovers you here." "I understand," I replied, my heart pounding as I forced myself to meet his gaze. "But I can't stand by any longer. I can't pretend this is not happening. I need to do something." There was a long pause, and for a fleeting moment, I wondered if they could see the fire igniting within me, the determination that began to drown out my fear. "What's done is done," Henry said finally, his tone shifting from accusation to contemplation. "If you're here, you might as well learn why we resist." A knot formed in my throat as he began to recount the events of the past few days, each word drawing me deeper into the reality I had only glimpsed through the safety of my window. Samuel, a bright young man with a spirit that shone even in the darkest of times, had been caught trying to escape. The master's punishment was swift and brutal, a reminder to us all of the price of defiance. As Henry spoke, I could see the pain etched into the lines of his face, the anger simmering just beneath the surface. "They whipped him," Henry said, his voice thick with emotion. 40 lashes for thinking he could be free." I heard his cries echoing in the night, He begged for mercy, but mercy is a foreign concept to the likes of our master. Each word landed like a blow, sending tremors of horror through me. I grasped the details of the punishment, the brutality of it, and my heart twisted in my chest. I had witnessed cruelty before, but this was something far more sinister. The image of Samuel, his eyes wide with fear, his body trembling under the weight of the whip, haunted me. "Samuel was strong, but he broke," Mary whispered, her voice trembling. "We're all breaking a little more every day." I felt a surge of anger rising within me, a fierce need to fight against this oppressive darkness that threatened to consume us all. "This can't be the end for him," I declared, my voice rising higher than I intended. "We can't just sit here and let it happen again. We need to fight back." Mary's eyes widened in surprise, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of hope dance across her features. "What do you propose, Clara? What can you do?" I opened my mouth to respond, but the reality of my position struck me hard. I was still the master's daughter, insulated from the repercussions of my words. The very privilege I had resented now felt like a chain binding me. But then I remembered Samuel's laughter, his spirit unbroken despite the odds. "We need to spread the word," I said, my voice steadying. "If we can unite those who suffer, if we can create a network, it could help. We could plan. We could resist." Henry shook his head slowly, the lines of his face deepening with concern. "And what happens when we're discovered? You think your father will just sit back and watch? He will come down on us like a storm and we'll be the ones to suffer." "Then let us suffer together," I urged, desperation creeping into my tone. "We've already lost so much. We can't afford to lose any more. I will help however I can. I can use my position to our advantage." Mary exchanged glances with Henry, her expression shifting from skepticism to contemplation. "You really believe that? You think you can change things?" "I have to believe, Anne," I said, feeling the weight of their stares. "For Samuel, for all of us. We must act. I can't turn back now." The room was silent, the air thick with tension as they considered my words. Finally, Henry nodded with a resigned acceptance. "Very well, Clara, the first step is to gather allies. We can't do this alone." My heart raced with a mixture of fear and exhilaration as I realized this was my moment. I was no longer an observer. I was part of the struggle, a small spark in a dark world. As I looked around the dim quarters at the faces of those who had endured so much, I felt a newfound sense of purpose. "We will start tonight," I declared, my voice strong. "We will meet in secret, share our stories, form a plan. We will not be silent any longer." With that, the first tentative threads of hope began to weave through the air, binding us together in a shared resolve. Little did I know then that this was just the beginning of a long and perilous journey, a path fraught with danger, but one I would walk undeterred. As I stepped back out into the night, the cool air hit my face, washing over me like a baptism. I had crossed a threshold. There was no turning back. I was ready to fight for those who had always fought for their lives, and in doing so, I would find a part of myself I never knew existed. With the weight of Henry's words still heavy in the air, I felt a shift within me, an awakening that ignited a flame where fear had once resided. The reality of what I had witnessed began to crystallize into a purpose. I was not merely a spectator. I was part of this fight, and I needed to act. "We can't sit idly and let Samuel's suffering be in vain," I spoke with an urgency that surprised even myself. "We must do something." Mary's brow furrowed, her skepticism still evident, but there was a glimmer of something in her eyes. Curiosity, perhaps. "What do you envision, Clara? A rebellion?" she asked, her voice laced with doubt. "You're just a girl from the big house. You don't know what it means to rise against the master." "I don't need to be a slave to know this is wrong," I replied, my voice steady. "I have resources." The thought of my father's influence sent a shiver down my spine, but I pushed it aside. "I can learn about the underground network. I can find those who want to help. If we could organize a way for Samuel and others to escape, we might just stand a chance." Henry regarded me with a mixture of respect and concern. "You think the network will welcome a master's daughter? They could be putting themselves at great risk." "I'll find a way," I insisted. feeling a newfound confidence swell within me. If I can just speak to the right people, I can gather information on the routes they take. I know the land better than most. I can navigate the woods, the rivers. I can help them reach freedom. Clara, this is reckless, Henry warned, stepping closer, his voice low and fierce. You might be able to slip away unnoticed now, but once the Master discovers you're missing, there'll be no hiding from his wrath. I'm aware of the dangers. I'm willing to face them, I said, my heart hammering in my chest. But I cannot continue living in a world where I do nothing while others suffer. I refuse to let fear dictate my choices any longer. As the words flowed from my lips, I caught a glimpse of resolve in Henry's eyes. He stepped back, glancing at the others in the room. The other enslaved men and women had been listening, their expressions ranging from disbelief to a cautious interest. You're asking us to trust you, he finally said. It may be easier to fight if we're all on the same side, but we need more than just your good intentions. I'll earn your trust, I promised, my voice steady. You can count on me. The air felt charged with possibilities as I began to outline my ideas, my mind racing with a sense of purpose. We'll need to keep this plan secret. I'll talk to the sympathetic white workers I know, the ones who might help us without alerting the Master. I'll gather information about the routes. We can create a safe passage. As I spoke, I could see their wariness begin to shift, like the first light of dawn breaking through the dark. Mary leaned in, her eyes gleaming with a hint of hope. And if they find out? Then we'll flee, I said, a fierce determination replacing my earlier trepidation. We'll escape before they can catch us. I've heard whispers of a network that helps people like Samuel. They take risks daily to make a difference. If we can connect with them, we might have a chance. Henry nodded slowly, his expression softening. And what if they refuse? What if they turn you away? Then I'll try again, I declared, my voice unwavering. I won't give up until I've done everything I can. With a newfound sense of camaraderie, the atmosphere shifted in the quarters. The heaviness that had weighed upon us began to lighten, replaced by the flickering flame of hope. I could feel the energy of the room change, the whispers of possibility dancing through the air. That night we devised our plan, each detail meticulously mapped out. I would venture into town at dusk, where the shadows concealed both my identity and intentions. I had heard of a man named Thomas, a worker in the nearby fields who had connections with the Underground Railroad. If I could convince him to help, we might forge a path to freedom for Samuel and others like him. As the hours slipped by, I could hardly contain my excitement, the thrill of agency coursing through my veins. I was no longer just Clara, the Master's daughter. I was Clara, an ally in the fight against oppression, a potential catalyst for change. The following evening, I prepared for my journey with a mix of fear and exhilaration. I donned a simple dress that would allow me to blend in among the townsfolk, leaving behind the fineries of the big house. My heart raced as I stepped out into the night, the familiar sounds of the plantation fading behind me. With each cautious step, I felt the weight of my privilege lift, replaced by a growing sense of purpose. I had crossed an invisible boundary, stepping into a world I had only glimpsed before. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of earth and impending rain. As I moved through the trees, I could feel the rhythmic pulse of the land beneath me, a reminder of the lives intertwined with this very soil. I reached the edge of the town, where shadows danced along the cobblestone streets. My heart thundered in my chest as I approached a small gathering of workers, their laughter mingling with the soft glow of lanterns. With each step, the urgency of my mission propelled me forward, pushing back the fear that threatened to consume me. Thomas, I called out, my voice steady despite the chaos swirling within. He turned, his brow furrowing in confusion. I need to speak with you. It's urgent. His expression shifted, curiosity and concern etched across his features. Clara, what are you doing here? I need your help, I said, the words tumbling out in a rush. It's about an escape plan for Samuel and others. There's an underground network willing to assist, but I need your knowledge to navigate the risks. Thomas's eyes widened, a mix of disbelief and admiration flashing across his face. You're serious? I am, I confirmed, urgency filling my voice. We can't let fear hold us back any longer. Every moment we wait, more lives are at stake. As he contemplated my words, the reality of our situation settled in. The stakes were high, and the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. But in that moment, I knew I was ready to embrace the chaos, to forge a path toward justice, no matter the cost. As the night deepened, the tension coiled tighter around us, setting the stage for the impending execution of our plan. The flame of resistance flickered to life within me, igniting a fire that could not be extinguished. I was no longer just a girl seeking understanding. I was Clara, a warrior for freedom, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The night had arrived, thick with a tension that wrapped around me like a shroud. My heart pounded in my chest as I prepared to step into the unknown, the air pregnant with uncertainty. The plan we had meticulously crafted over the past weeks now felt like both a lifeline and a noose. I clutched the small satchel that contained the essentials, a few coins, a map I had drawn from memory, and a letter to Thomas, the man who would help us navigate the treacherous path ahead. As I slipped out of the big house, the moon hung low in the sky, its silvery glow illuminating the path toward the slave quarters. I had never felt the weight of my privilege more acutely than in that moment, the stark contrast between my sheltered life and the grim reality that awaited me. Each step echoed with a sense of urgency, and I could feel the eyes of my allies upon me, their hopes resting on my shoulders. The slave quarters were alive with whispers, the atmosphere thick with unspoken fears, and the weight of our collective decision. I joined the others in a dimly lit corner, their faces a mixture of anticipation and dread. "Is everyone ready?" I asked, my voice steady, despite the torrent of emotions swirling within me. Henry nodded, his expression grave. "Once we leave, there's no turning back. We either succeed, or we face the wrath of the Master." Mary's eyes glinted in the low light, a determination flickering within them. "We've waited too long for this moment. Let's not let fear dictate our fate." The fire in her voice ignited a spark among the group, and I felt the collective resolve strengthen. Just as we began to finalize our arrangements, a commotion erupted outside the quarters. The harsh sounds of shouting and the clattering of boots on the dirt echoed through the night, sending a chill down my spine. Panic surged among us, and I could see the fear etched on their faces. "What's happening?" I whispered, but deep down, I feared I already knew. "Stay quiet," Henry urged, his voice low and commanding. "It could be the Master." The door swung open violently, and there he stood, Mr. Harrison, the overseer, flanked by several men, their faces hardened and grim. "I heard whispers of betrayal," he growled, his gaze sweeping the room like a predator hunting for prey. "Where's Clara? I know she's involved." The air turned electric, my breath hitching in my throat. My heart raced not only from fear, but from the realization that our plan was unraveling before it had even begun. "We need to hide," I hissed, instinctively looking for a place to conceal ourselves. But the odds were against us. The small quarters offered little sanctuary. "Clara!" Mr. Harrison's voice rang out again, fierce and accusing. "You think you can conspire with the likes of them? You think your blood gives you the right to meddle in affairs you know nothing about?" His words cut through me, a reminder of my place in this cruel hierarchy. "I'm not meddling," I protested, my voice rising against the tide of fear. "I'm trying to help. Samuel deserves to be free." The instant the words left my mouth, I regretted them. The men's eyes narrowed, and I could see the realization dawning upon them. My betrayal was now fully exposed. "Help?" Mr. Harrison laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. "You've got a naive idea of what help looks like, girl. You'll learn soon enough the consequences of your foolishness." He stepped forward, closing the distance between us, his towering figure casting a dark shadow over my resolve. A surge of adrenaline coursed through me. I had come too far to back down now. "The only thing foolish is allowing this cruelty to continue," I shot back, surprising even myself with the fire in my tone. It was a desperate gamble, but in that moment, I understood the cost of freedom. It was not just a desire for escape. It was a willingness to confront oppression head-on, to risk it all for those who had suffered far worse than I ever could. At that moment, chaos erupted. The men lunged forward, and I felt a hand grip my arm, pulling me back. "Run!" I shouted to the others, spurred by a primal instinct to survive and protect. The room descended into turmoil, bodies colliding, shouts mingling with cries of fear. I couldn't see where everyone had gone. The darkness swallowed them up, leaving me alone in the eye of the storm. Suddenly I was yanked away from the chaos, Mr. Harrison's grip unyielding as he dragged me outside, the night air stinging against my skin. "You think this is a game, Clara?" He spat, his breath rancid with anger. "You'll pay for this betrayal." His threats hung heavy in the air, and in that moment, I realized the full gravity of my choices. The overseers were closing in, and I could hear their angry shouts ringing in my ears. I fought against Mr. Harrison's grip, my heart racing as I looked around, desperately searching for a way out. The moonlight glinted off a nearby path leading into the shadows of the trees, and with a surge of courage, I broke free from his grasp, sprinting toward the darkness. "Clara!" I heard Henry's voice calling out, but it was lost in the din of chaos behind me. I ran, my feet pounding against the dirt, driven by a fierce determination to reach safety. I could hear the men shouting, their footsteps chasing me, but I refused to look back. Each breath was a reminder of the stakes, of the lives hanging in the balance. As I plunged deeper into the woods, the sounds of pursuit faded, replaced by the rustle of leaves and the call of night creatures. I was alone, the weight of my choices crashing down around me, but I had made a commitment. No matter the cost, I would see this through. But as I stumbled through the underbrush, a sharp pain lanced through my side, and I realized I wasn't as far from danger as I thought. A figure emerged from the shadows, and I froze, heart racing. It was Thomas, his face a mask of urgency. "Clara! We need to move, now!" He grabbed my arm, urgency and fear palpable in his grip. Before I could respond, the night shattered with the sounds of men shouting my name, the master's wrath echoing through the air. "There's no time," Thomas urged, pulling me toward a hidden path. "Follow me." As I ran alongside him, I felt the weight of my choices press down on me. I had ignited a fire that could not be extinguished, and the fight for freedom had become a visceral reality. There would be no going back now. Every step forward was a step into the unknown, a step toward the cost of liberation. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but I could not turn away. I would continue to fight against the darkness, even as it threatened to consume me. My resolve solidified. I would not let fear silence me again. As we fled deeper into the night, I knew that this was only the beginning. The master would not rest until he found me, and the price of my rebellion would echo far beyond this moment. I was ready to meet whatever consequences awaited me. Freedom demanded courage, and I was finally prepared to pay its price. The fight was only just beginning. The chaos that erupted in the slave quarters felt like a storm, a tempest of panic and desperation. I stood frozen, my breath caught in my throat as Mr. Harrison's men stormed through the door, their faces momentarily illuminated by the flickering lamplight. Fear coursed through me, a frigid wave that constricted my heart. I was paralyzed, caught in a web of my own making. My words had unleashed a torrent, and now the price of my defiance loomed before me. "Clara!" Mr. Harrison's voice sliced through the thick air, laden with contempt and fury. "You think you can betray your own kind and escape the consequences? You think your blood gives you the right to meddle in affairs you know nothing about?" His words echoed, a reminder of the intricate hierarchies we were ensnared within. I could feel the weight of my privilege tightening around my throat like a noose. In that moment, the realization washed over me. I had exposed not only my intentions, but the very vulnerability of my soul. I had stepped out of the shadows into the light, and now there was no retreat. The faces of my comrades, once filled with courage, were now masks of terror, their hopes dashed against the rocks of my reckless ambition. "What will happen to us?" Henry whispered, his voice trembling. I could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes, and it mirrored my own. Mr. Harrison stepped closer, the air thick with his oppressive presence. "You wanted to play the hero, Clara? You will learn the cost of your actions." His sneer felt like a lash against my skin. I knew he would not hesitate to exact brutal punishment, not just on me, but on everyone associated with my folly. In that moment, I felt the sharp sting of guilt piercing my heart. I had placed them all in danger. "Stay back," I shouted, my voice cracking with desperation. "You don't have to do this. We can all live better lives. You can choose compassion." It was a feeble attempt to appeal to whatever humanity remained in him, but I knew better. This man thrived on power, and compassion was a language he did not understand. "Compassion?" he barked, laughter intermingling with rage. "You think there's room for compassion in a world that thrives on your kind's suffering? You will pay for your insolence, and I will ensure that every soul in this quarter knows the price of rebellion." As he spoke, I felt the ground shift beneath me, the reality of our situation crashing down like a tidal wave. No longer was this an abstract fight against oppression, it was personal. The faces around me, once filled with determination, now reflected a growing despair. "We can't let him do this," I thought, the urgency of the moment igniting a flicker of resolve within me. I had to act. "Mary," I called out, desperate to rally my allies. "We need to find our way out of here now." I could see the fear in her eyes, but also a spark of strength. Perhaps I had not lost her faith. In that moment she stepped forward, her back straightening, the fire in her gaze rekindled. "Clara is right. We can't give in. We need to escape before they can retaliate. We can't let them make examples of us." Mary's voice rang with a conviction that grounded me, reminded me that I was not alone in this fight. But as we began to move, Mr. Harrison's men surged forward. "You think you can run?" one of them sneered, advancing with a crude weapon raised high. "You'll regret ever thinking you could defy the master." The world slowed, the chaos of the quarters fading into a blur. My heart raced as I turned to Henry, who met my gaze with a determination that mirrored my own. "We won't let them take us," he vowed, and in that moment we made a pact, a silent agreement to fight for our lives, for our freedom. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, we bolted toward the back of the quarters, our feet pounding against the wooden floor. But as we reached the door, it swung open wide, revealing the towering figure of Mr. Harrison, a malevolent grin twisting his features. "You think you can escape me?" he taunted, his voice low and dangerous. In that moment, time seemed to freeze, the air thick with dread. I could see the path to freedom stretching out before me, yet I was trapped in a nightmare. "Clara!" Henry shouted, urgency saturating his voice. "This way!" We turned, but the path was blocked. The men closed in, their faces a mask of disdain and power. "Grab her!" one of them shouted. I felt hands grasp at my arms, yanking me back, pulling me into their cruel embrace. "Let go of me!" I screamed, fury boiling within me. I kicked and struggled, but it was futile against their overwhelming strength. I caught a glimpse of Henry and Mary, their faces contorted with anguish as they were forced back, the reality of our separation looming like a dark shadow. "Clara!" Henry's voice cut through the chaos, a desperate plea that ignited something deep within me. I would not go down without a fight. "You will not take us," I declared, summoning every ounce of strength to break free. But the more I fought, the more they tightened their grip. My heart sank as I felt the crushing weight of despair descend upon me. What have I done? The thought echoed in my mind, a bitter reminder of my reckless ambition. "Rebellion will not be tolerated," Mr. Harrison declared, his voice rising above the din filled with venomous satisfaction. "You will all suffer for this, starting with Clara." As the darkness closed in, the reality of my choices crashed down on me like a wave. I had wanted to ignite a spark of hope, to light the way for those who suffered, but all I had done was place my friends in greater danger. In that moment, the weight of guilt and grief settled heavily upon my shoulders. I would carry their pain, their fear, and their hopes with me, no matter what fate awaited me. As I was dragged away, I knew this was not the end. I would find a way to keep fighting, even in the face of overwhelming odds. I would not let their suffering be in vain. And as the darkness enveloped me, I resolved that somehow, some way, I would reclaim our story. I would not be silenced, I would not be forgotten. Mr. Harrison's brutal retaliation left Clara broken, but unyielding. Though captured, she began to grasp the depth of her commitment to the cause. As the master vowed to hunt down the escaped slaves, Clara's heart hardened with resolve. She would face the consequences of her actions, determined to forge a new path even if it meant risking everything she had left. The story of Clara echoed through the quarters, a testament to courage and defiance, igniting a fire within those who remained. Her legacy would not be forgotten, for it was woven into the very fabric of their struggle. The echoes of Clara's defiance reverberate through time, a grim reminder of the brutal fight for freedom and justice. If these untold stories of resilience and survival resonate with you, join our community. Subscribe to the channel to uncover more hidden truths from the shadows of slavery. Your support helps keep these powerful narratives alive. Leave a comment sharing what moved you. The tension in the air tightened around us like a vice as Mr. Harrison's figure loomed in the doorway, an embodiment of our darkest fears. "You thought you could outsmart me, Clara?" His voice dripped with disdain, each word a reminder of the power he wielded over our lives. My heart thundered, but deep within, a quiet resolve began to stir, a defiance that refused to be extinguished. I glanced behind me, quickly assessing the faces of my comrades. Their fear was palpable, but so was the flicker of rebellion that glinted in their eyes. "This isn't over," I thought fiercely, my thoughts racing. Perhaps I had underestimated the spirit of those around me. "We can't surrender our hopes to a man who thrives on our suffering." "Let them go, Mr. Harrison," I said, forcing my voice to project unwavering confidence. "You can't silence us all." It was a gamble, one that could lead to dire consequences. But I had to take a stand. I had already spoken too much. The seeds of rebellion had been sown in this moment of chaos, and I would be damned if I let them wither. Mr. Harrison's eyes narrowed, and for a fleeting moment I could see the calculation beneath his rage. "Spare me your bravado, Clara. You've made your choice, and now you must face the consequences." He stepped forward menacingly, and I felt the weight of his authority pressing down upon me, threatening to crumble my resolve. But I had come too far to back down. "You think I'm afraid of you? Your tyranny is built on the backs of the oppressed, and those you threaten are rising," I declared, my voice steady despite the tremor in my heart. With each word I spoke, the fear that had once paralyzed me began to dissipate, replaced by a fierce determination. "Clara, please." Henry's voice broke through the tension, his eyes filled with concern. "This isn't just about you anymore. We need to think of everyone here." But I could not let his plea deter me. "I understand, Henry," I replied, my gaze unwavering. "But if we remain silent, we will never be free. We must confront him, expose his cruelty. It's time for the truth to be known." "Truth?" Mr. Harrison scoffed, his laughter echoing in the dimly lit space. "Your truth means nothing to me. You are nothing but a foolish girl playing at rebellion. You think you can change the world with your words?" "My words are just the beginning," I shot back, feeling a surge of strength from the solidarity of my friends. "Together we can ignite a fire that will spread far beyond these quarters. You underestimate the power of unity, Mr. Harrison." Just then, a flicker of movement caught my eye from the shadows. It was Samuel, slipping through the chaos with a quiet confidence. I had not expected him, but here he was, relaying the urgency of our collective plight. "They're gathering outside," he whispered urgently. "More men are coming. We need to act now." The gravity of his words sent a jolt of urgency through me. "We can't let them know our plan," I said, fixing my gaze on the others. "We need to do this together. We must create a distraction." "Distraction?" Mary echoed, her brow furrowing. "What do you have in mind?" "A fire," I said, my heart racing at the audacity of the idea. "If we can create a diversion, we might buy enough time to escape, or at least rally support from those outside." "But it's too dangerous," Henry protested, fear creeping into his voice. "What if we get caught? Better to risk everything than to remain prisoners of this hell," I snapped, the weight of our situation pressing down on me like a shroud. "Do you want to live in fear forever, or do you want to fight for our freedom? This is our chance." The flicker of determination ignited in their eyes, and I could sense the shift as they began to rally around the idea. "I'll help," Samuel said, his voice resolute. "We can use the materials in the storage shed." "Yes," I exclaimed. feeling the adrenaline coursing through my veins. We need to act quickly before Mr. Harrison can solidify his control over us. We'll light a fire in the shed, draw attention away from the quarters. As we began to move in unison, the fear that had once paralyzed us transformed into a fierce camaraderie, a bond forged in the crucible of our shared struggle. I could see the resolve on Mary's face as she nodded in agreement, her spirit bolstered by the prospect of rebellion. "Clara, no matter what happens, we stand together," she said, her voice firm. In her words, I found the strength I needed. This was no longer just about me, it was about all of us. We slipped into the shadows, moving with purpose toward the storage shed. The night felt electric, charged with the energy of our defiance. As we reached the shed, I could see the tools and materials cluttered inside, remnants of labor that had built the very structures of our oppression. "Gather anything that can catch fire," I instructed. "We need to make this count." My hands trembled as I collected dried straw, old rags, and bits of kindling. The weight of our actions hung heavily over us, but I knew that this moment could shift the tide of our struggle. "Are you ready?" Samuel asked, his voice steady but laced with urgency. I looked around at my comrades, their faces illuminated by the dim light of the moon. "Together," as I affirmed, and with a nod we ignited the flames. The fire sprang to life in a burst of color and heat, consuming the dry materials and sending sparks into the air. The flames danced like a wild spirit, and for a moment I felt a rush of exhilaration mingled with fear. Would this act of defiance lead to our liberation, or would it seal our fates? As the flames rose higher, I could hear the distant shouts of Mr. Harrison's men drawn to the commotion, their attention divided. "Now!" I urged, my heart racing. "We have to move!" We rushed back toward the quarters, our hearts pounding in unison. The chaos outside was growing louder, and as we burst through the door, I caught a glimpse of the fear on Mr. Harrison's face, a flicker of uncertainty that fueled my resolve. "Clara!" he bellowed, but the power in his voice faltered as the sound of the roaring fire filled the air. In that moment, I knew we had seized our opportunity. "Let's go!" I shouted, leading our group toward the back of the quarters, adrenaline surging as we raced against the clock. We had ignited not just a fire in the shed, but a flame of rebellion that would spread, consuming the darkness of oppression. We were no longer just the oppressed, we were the catalysts of change. As we barreled into the night, I could feel the weight of my identity shifting. I was no longer just Clara, the master's daughter. I was a revolutionary, unwilling to back down in the face of tyranny. And as we fled, I knew this was not just a fight for survival, it was the birth of a legacy. I looked back one last time, a fierce determination burning bright within me. This was just the beginning of our story, a story that would resonate far beyond these quarters, echoing through the annals of history. We would not be silenced. We would rise. The air was thick with smoke and desperation as I stood at the heart of the chaos, my heart pounding like a war drum in my chest. The fire we had ignited crackled fiercely, consuming the wooden beams of the slave quarters, casting dancing shadows against the walls, a vivid reminder of the fight we had chosen. In the midst of this inferno, I felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. It was a rebellion ignited, an act of defiance that had transformed our quiet suffering into a roaring flame of resistance. "Clara, we need to move." Samuel's voice broke through the haze, urgency lacing his words as he grabbed my arm, pulling me back from the edge of indecision. I could see the fear etched on the faces of my comrades, their eyes wide and filled with uncertainty. "If we don't leave now, we may not get another chance." I nodded, the reality of our situation crashing down upon me like a wave. Mr. Harrison and his men would not take our actions lightly. I had exposed not only my intentions, but the vulnerability of my soul, and the consequences would be dire. Yet, within the depths of my fear, a fire burned brighter, a resolve to fight for our freedom, to stand against the tyranny that had held us captive for far too long. As the flames roared behind us, I turned to my friends, seeing the flicker of rebellion igniting in their eyes. We cannot let fear dictate our actions any longer. We fight, not just for our lives, but for the future of all of us. This is our moment. My voice rang out, stronger than I felt, igniting a spark among them. Mary stepped forward, her expression shifting from fear to determination. "You're right, Clara, we've been silent for too long. We fight together." Her words acted as a rallying cry, and I could see others beginning to nod in agreement, their fear transforming into a shared purpose. "Let's head for the woods," Samuel urged, glancing toward the doorway where the shadows of Mr. Harrison's men loomed. "They'll be coming for us. We can't let them catch us here." With a collective breath, we turned and sprinted toward the back of the quarters. The heat of the flames kissed my skin, but I pushed forward, fueled by the adrenaline of our shared defiance. The world blurred around me, each step taking us further away from the shackles of our past. As we burst through the door and into the night, the cool air hit my face like a bomb. The moonlight illuminated our path, and with every stride I felt the shackles of fear begin to break away. We were no longer just a group of enslaved people. We were a force united in our quest for freedom. "Over here," Samuel shouted, leading us toward the thick trees that surrounded the plantation. We ducked and weaved through the underbrush, our hearts racing, the sound of our feet muffled by the soft earth beneath us. I could hear the distant shouts of Mr. Harrison's men, the chaos of the fire behind us fading into the night. Once we reached the cover of the trees, we paused to catch our breath, the adrenaline still coursing through our veins. I looked around at my comrades, their faces illuminated by the faint light of the moon, and I felt a surge of pride. We had chosen to fight, and in doing so, we had become something greater than ourselves. "This is just the beginning," I said, my voice steady as I addressed them. "We must find others, gather support, and organize ourselves. We cannot let this moment be in vain." The fire that had begun in the quarters was not just a blaze. It was a signal, a call to arms for all who suffered under the weight of oppression. Henry stepped forward, his expression serious yet hopeful. "You're right, Clara. We need to create a network, find allies who will stand with us. We can't do this alone." "Yes," I replied, feeling the weight of responsibility settle upon my shoulders. "We must reach out to those who have been waiting for a chance to rise. We can't let fear silence us anymore." As we began to formulate our plans, I felt a sense of clarity emerge within me. I had started this journey as a girl caught between two worlds, but now I stood as a woman determined to change the course of our lives. The burden of my choices weighed heavily, but it was a burden I was willing to carry for the sake of my people. We spent the night in the woods whispering strategies and sharing our stories. The bonds between us deepened, forged in the fires of our shared struggle. I listened as others spoke of their families, their dreams, and their pain, and with each story, I felt our collective strength grow. As dawn broke, the first light of day illuminating the horizon, I knew we were at the precipice of something monumental. We might have started as individuals, but we were becoming a community, a movement fueled by the desire for justice and freedom. The journey ahead would be fraught with danger, but together we could withstand the storm. "Clara," Mary said softly, her voice filled with a mix of reverence and admiration. "You've inspired us. Your courage has awakened something in all of us." I met her gaze, feeling the weight of her words. We must continue to inspire one another. Our fight is not just for ourselves, it is for all who have suffered under the yoke of slavery. We must be the voice of those who cannot speak. With renewed determination, we set our sights on the future, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The fight for freedom was far from over, but within each of us burned a light, an unquenchable fire of hope and resistance that would guide our way. As we moved deeper into the woods, I felt the spirit of our ancestors with us, their strength echoing in the rustling leaves and the whispering winds. We were rising, and this time we would not be silenced. Clara's journey did not end in the woods that fateful night. She and her comrades forged a network of resistance, spreading their message far and wide. In the years that followed, Clara became a symbol of defiance, inspiring countless others to rise against the oppression of slavery. Her legacy lived on, a testament to the power of unity and the unyielding spirit of those who dared to fight for freedom. In the years to come, her name would be remembered among the brave, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope could ignite a revolution. Clara's story, though wrought with pain and sacrifice, was a beacon of light for generations yet to come. The echoes of Clara's defiance, reverberate through time, a grim reminder of the brutal fight for freedom and justice. If these untold stories of resilience and survival resonate with you, join our community. Subscribe to the channel to uncover more hidden truths from the shadows of slavery. Your support helps keep these powerful narratives alive. Leave a comment sharing what moved you,